Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Gordon, the founder of Writers Bootcamp, and this is our new initiative, an interview series within the entertainment industry, Creative Currency. We're exploring the value of creativity today, and in many cases, the pivots that seasoned people are making in the entertainment industry from traditional outlets to newcomers and how they're blazing a trail and looking at the potential democratization of production, even within these changes. So let me make an announcement briefly that we have two 10-week basic trainings starting. July 1st, I have a couple of spots, and August 1st. Those happen to be either Wednesday mornings at 10 LA time or Saturday mornings at 10 LA time, which is great for any writers and artists, filmmakers you may know in Europe, because it's still a decent hour. And after the couple hour sessions, people can still go out to dinner. And you take an idea and complete 3 drafts of a TV pilot or a feature film, or write the foundation and 150 pages of a book or a novel. And let's not underestimate, within the 1,000+ success stories, major movie and TV credits, there are also hundreds of books published by alumni. The great thing about today is that I'm interviewing 2 alums, some of our favorite people. Great timing, Sean. Welcome.
Hello.
I love your situation over there. Welcome to Sean Reid from World One Productions, a Writers Bootcamp alumnus and a longtime staff member. Sean, thanks over the years for supporting so many writers through Writers Bootcamp.
It's been my pleasure. It's been part of my education to help others because as you know, you learn a lot about yourself when you're helping others, and a lot of times you're maybe helping yourself more than helping them. And if you get a check, it's even better.
Exactly. Well, I always tried to set up situations for either, the staff recruiters as well as the mentors being able to have a living wage while striving, to aspire to other aspects of the business. You know, um, how were you originally referred to Writers Boot Camp? I realized I didn't remember exactly.
That is a fascinating question. I don't exactly remember, but I definitely had somebody that was internally in within the family because we definitely met directly. I think I had one
Right.
call, but then we ended up meeting and talking more, and I think that's how I ended up signing up for professional and doing work
Right.
study, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
yeah, I did the whole route.
That was a great segue. You took advantage of you checked all the boxes.
Yes, I
Um,
did.
what was your first job in the business? Was it in production? Was it at E with, I remember a fellow Stark alum, my grad program, Ed Zarkoff, was a big
Yes,
executive there.
I think that that's part of our connection is Ed Zarkoff because Ed Zarkoff was I worked for Ed. I was the assignment manager at E News. I started as an assignment editor, and then I became eventually the manager, well, supervisor, then manager. He was the head of the news, and then he went to a VP position. But I also always considered him a great mentor, USC guy, famous lineage with filmmaking.
Oh, yeah.
And the first guy who told me needed to make sure I was always wearing a watch as an assignment editor.
That was
Uh,
before cell phones.
well before cell phones,
If you're
although
driving and you have your cell phone, why do you need a watch?
yeah, so a different
Unless you
time.
collect watches, which is a nice thing to do, although I
Yeah,
haven't.
absolutely. But that actually wasn't my first job in the industry. I would say my first like official paid job that I consider my start is America's Funniest Home Videos as a PA
Hmm.
during the Bob Saget era. Um,
Wow, that's
and I
amazing.
Yeah, I went from a regular in-house kind of pool PA, and then I got promoted to the post PA, which meant I got to sit in the sessions with Bob, and eventually I was promoted to music licensing, and did that for a season for 2 different TV shows, Funniest Videos and Funniest People. So Great start, of course.
And before you directed a feature,
Hmm.
did you direct shorts?
I directed, before I directed Redemption, I not only directed some shorts, my first short was called The Bathroom. That was about an inbred Southern family that moves to the South with a young black guy in tow. Now I live in the South. Uh,
Unbelievable.
but
You're out just
unbelievable,
outside of Atlanta, right?
just outside of Atlanta. But then I also ended up directing things, for people like even my dad. I directed a play and then we directed it into a pilot. Never went really anywhere, but those types of exercises early with my dad really helped kind of cement me in my directing shoes.
And he's a strong individual, artist, executive. And so, what was that exposure? I still wouldn't, I mean, you're in some ways a legacy, but I think that's conflating too much because I think he instilled in you such an incredible work ethic.
Yeah, I think that it's all about the work. He always made his own copies, even when he was really high up on that scale. He always did everything himself, and I think that that really helped me. But and also being a journalist first, and then kind of transitioning into TV. I think journalism teaches you a little bit more hands-on, do everything yourself. Even back then, he was doing news with a Bolex, back in the
Wow.
day, where they got to ship the film back. Uh,
Was he at CBS?
he was at CBS, he was at NBC. He was the first bureau chief for Fox News in Los Angeles. So John Ailes was the person who replaced him. You see how that went.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment. But so he definitely had a range, but he also ended up working at Entertainment Tonight, which is how I ended up getting over at Vin Dabona because he and Vin Dabona worked at Entertainment Tonight together. So that's kind of how I got that first
Right.
experience, first job.
Just the crackle of television and also live news and being at a network or a couple of networks. That's an incredible background. What's your general feeling lately? I mean, you've been more than aspirational, having basically started a production and streaming company, World One, right?
Hmm.
So you've been on top of whatever trends and also riding that wave. But what's your general insight about this prior 5, 6 years that we've been through with the streamers ascending, COVID, the non recovery in LA, at least from COVID, partially due to and I'm pro labor, but the actors and writer strikes. Then once there seemed to be some momentum back, the streamers reduced production by nearly 50%, at least in television, and then the wildfires hit in LA. And ever since I moved to LA 40 years ago, there's been runaway production. I mean, were you at Writers Boot Camp when we had the fundraiser and the independent production panel with Eric Arsetti? How to
I think
keep,
you had that was before my a little bit before my time, but that was already happening, and you were well ahead of knowing that that was going on. Because
I
just
mean,
think about the mayor that was how long.
right, exactly. So, what's been your general experience and perspective um, in your segue to having your own company and platform?
There are a few things that transpired and happened interpersonally for me, and also just in the general thing. I mean, one of the first phases I was struck by was 9/11. E changed radically and television changed radically at that time. And I was on my way into freelance even at that point. So once you get into that freelance zone and you're really working on your own and you're trying to look for those opportunities, eh, it's not like working at a network, and I can't even imagine what working like at a network would be like today personally, because I understand what it was like for me in terms of like always, kind of looking out for when's that next thing going to fall or when's that next change going to happen. And as I was advised one time by a great writer at he always said, make sure you're doing something, right? Always make sure you're actually doing something. Don't be just managing. B, actually have something that your hands are on. And I think that by the time I got to coming out of COVID, for me, it started to be like, well, I'm a filmmaker. I should be making films. And I was around people who are making films. And my friend Jason Horton, who I work with, who's very prolific and has directed 20 independent films and probably edited 70. We just started making things, documentaries. And documentaries may be one of the things that survives this period because it's not AI. So one of the things I learned is put your hands on everything as much as you possibly can because this next phase is AI is how do you guide AI if you're not putting your hands on things?
Right.
So I think it's made me, everything I've seen has made me more productive. I've always been a bit of a pirate mentality. I see the ship going down. I go, "Arr, I'm going to climb to the top, and whoever gets to the top first it may survive, or we may all go down, but at least I'm
Right.
going to get to the top."
Right. That opening scene of Pirates, you know, in the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
where Johnny Depp is walking from the boat to the dock as it sinks. Um,
Dropping down.
but congratulations on your company.
Mm-hmm.
How do you describe the business model?
Uh, we've shifted focus from our beginning. We were truly a subscription model. Sign up for World One TV, buy a subscription. And in this iteration, with marketing budgets and the different competition, I've discovered that licensing our library has been more effective than anything else. So it's really been more of a behind the scenes and looking for opportunities to help other parts of the library that I'm a part of get licensed in other places. And that does seem like one of the places where distribution and, finding titles and finding things is something I've done a lot of and seem to be doing more of as we keep going. So
So do you feel you're rolling calls?
I'm not quite rolling calls, but it's starting to get there. It's starting to really get there.
Right.
Where I'm starting to, I have a few different partnerships that I'm working with. I'm also executive producing an independent TV series called Aviation Appetites that now is looking for distribution. So I'm working with them and I'm being creative on that. So it's sometimes you're rolling your roll on the call
Right,
besides
right.
rolling your call.
Speaking of AI, we're sending a communique to our community and welcome to our alumni. And please subscribe to our Writers Bootcamp YouTube channel, which we've been beginning to store creative currency, these 30-minute short form interviews. We're figuring out what to do with the 500 plus long form 75, 90 minutes. So this will be good content, Sean, because I guess the clips are the show, right? But speaking of AI, we're releasing this fun ad today. I'm able to use the word prompts connected to the tools, and then it's just AI for writers, authentic intelligence. So it's just a fun thing. But obviously, in production, cutting down on locations affects the reduction of crew, which isn't, I'm pro labor. It's not the greatest thing, although maybe other roles pop up. It's from some perspective, it's the view that the Ben Affleck deal, the $600 million deal to buy his company,
Hmm.
was essentially a permission structure and more of a political move than anything else. But what AI tools have you started to use as a producer and a
Hmm.
filmmaker?
I have a few. I worked with Chat for a while. I've kind of phased out Chat GPT, except for as a backup and for making images, which I really love making images with it. And I think sometimes being able to visualize the poster and visualize, the art, really as the tools also kind of get, visual. I think you have in the tools visualize the poster as one of your tools and who
Oh
the
yeah,
audience
back in the
is.
day, yeah.
Yeah, so with
That's
AI, I
somewhere
think
in the recesses of the basic training workbook, I'm sure.
yes, and so that I find personally being able to do that really increases the bandwidth of what I'm seeing. Like if the more that I can see that poster and what the title is and what those characters are and then start to work it out on some level, it really just gives me a visual blast. I can't say it any other way when I'm working on projects and around the house. Sometimes my wife will take something I've done, like what I've worked on, and she'll put it on the refrigerator like it's something like the kids did, that the art, and it's like, or and then she'll take something that my stepdaughter's writing, and she'll put that up. So we have all these kind of ways, and it's a visual though to say, hey, this is cool. You should keep working on it.
Do you ascribe to sizzle reels, or PowerPoints for projects?
I
Because I'm not a fan of treatments. Obviously, in
mhm,
nonfiction narrative,
yes.
there can be a plan, not the same kind of outline or treatment. An outline for sure, but you're mostly arranging, you know, footage and inserting, material that you're often getting license, rights to. But as a producer at the company, are you thinking, oh, we should do a 2 to 3 minute reel?
Yes, and yes. So especially with, like, and you mentioned decks first. Decks are only really as good as what comes behind a deck. Most people think, "Oh, I've got to make a deck." I don't think, "Oh, I've got to make a deck." A deck. I think, "Oh, I've got to create the content that will support these highlight things, that answer these questions that the deck needs." So I look
Right.
at it as a kind of a reverse behind the line. Ed probably, just like you, always talked about making the list. And that for me is kind of making the list, right? I look at it from
Right.
behind and I say, I've got to fill this in, I've got to fill this in, I've got to fill this in. And I start to slot those in. And from the behind it, then I can flip it around and I can see, oh, these things I need to do for it to create the visuals, even. Sometimes a deck, really, especially
So
a
the
good
deck is
feature
almost
deck.
like the highlight reel, the conversation potentially. And if you have the sizzle, then you probably don't need the
The
highlights
deck.
because they're, yeah, the deck. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, in a sec, I want to segue to verticals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading that, and I've seen some. I don't know their titles
They
because
usually have
it's
billionaire in it.
right, exactly, and they're like urban legends.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know that he was the long lost, in you know, heir to the fortune. You know what I mean,
Yes.
and mistreated him.
Mm-hmm.
But it said, I read fast, sensational tropes like werewolves, billionaires, revenge, and dramatic plot twists. Breakneck schedules like a week, 60 to 90 minutes, but with 1 to 2 minute units.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I never liked, I thought it was a clever word, webisodes, but I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather just call it episodes. But and then heavily exported worldwide through Chinese-backed platforms like Real Short and Drama Box.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel that you saw the first verticals or micro dramas from through or via China, the Chinese market? Was it
I
because
have.
I know it evolved because of social media and
Mm-hmm.
and clips, but then what created that trend and how long has that been going on?
I've been really actively tracking microdramas for, and I call them microdramas. Some people call them verticals. I like microdramas because I think it's a little bit more of an elevated, highbrow description of them, right?
Right.
More about maybe the aspiration of where they can actually go than where they are right now. Um, and seeing that this evolution and tracking it, you start to see the different quadrants. Like, yes, you see the Chinese companies and they have the billionaires. A lot of their things are, we're doing just remakes of what they've already done. So the Chinese companies will hire American companies. Those companies will get a script from their factory and they will remake that. Companies like Blacktopia, which is a part of Heartbeat, which is a relatively new and hasn't launched yet, but was just down in Miami at ABFF, they're really trying to do something a little bit more elevated. They're trying to find it for the black audience where maybe we can spend a little less money, but give them something a little bit more. So it's still, I saw somebody just recently did the first musical. on vertical. So there's a lot of new things happening. I believe one of the major players licensed the National Enquirer Library to put it all into a vertical type of thing. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to start coming across that are going to be more tailored towards you or me or and everybody else. It's just that's the lane they started in, which is one of the most consumable ones, as we know. We miss our soap operas on some level, so the fact that there are these kind of disposable things, I think there'll be more for all audiences very soon. You're gonna look at it's exploding and it's getting and people are starting to come together and it's starting to get tracked. You're gonna see more of it. How much more elevated it's gonna be, I don't know. That's where we're gonna have to figure out.
And are they ultimately contiguous and seamless at some point because they they're just continue there's just a continuation that flows as opposed to stops and then you have to click another chapter?
No, they're pretty much leading you down a clipping thing. Now, I believe what happens is generally depending on what deal you can get is that you're buying like a bundle of a certain amount of time. And I'm pretty sure there's a way to just buy the rest of it. But a lot of people are just consuming it to see if they like it. I've mainly not really ever bought any of them. I watch the first 30 minutes that are free and then I move on to the next one. Because for me, I'm just studying how it works mainly. So I
Right.
haven't gotten hooked personally yet into something. I'm like, I gotta see the whole thing.
What can you define a little further? What are the distinguishing elements?
Well,
Is it
obviously the first one is the 9 by 16 that it's vertical, but then and the big points are is that a minute to 90 seconds is a really impactful amount of time, and it's designed to make you want to click to watch the next one.
right?
There are generally like 4 to 5 visual cues you need to have that are highlighting it. So if your characters must appear on screen, I got to know who that character is the moment they're on screen. So there's no real time for introductions or for those types of things. Your dialogue also has to be easily subtitled. Like, don't
Mm-hmm.
get too complicated and don't get into these things. Also, you want to look at, you know, dialogue clusters don't work as well. You don't want to have 5 people in a screen talking. You want to try to stick to close ups and to 2 shots.
Got it.
Um, and you've got to end on a cliffhanger. You've got to end on something that's going to make the person want to click to see that next one because eventually
So
that's going to be the next click.
so every minute to 2 minutes, you're breaking it down to some page turner
hmm
potentially.
Yeah, you've got a page turner, you've got these grabbers, and you've got to establish your track like immediately so that they know exactly what they're watching.
And because it's more two shots or close-ups,
hmm
well, how do you look at it and as far as a production strategy and financially and budgets for a 60 to 90 minute flow? And is it set up where I mean, the audience isn't clicking different responses. It's not interactive that way.
No, it's not interactive. So what you're really looking at is you're looking at like a lot of really talented block shooting, where you're often going. There's 2, 3, 4, 5 locations, and also it's a studio, so maybe I can turn over here and shoot a wall, and make it look, or I can go out in the back and make it look like an alley. So you're looking for, there's always a base shoot that's going to be something. So very much so to single location shooting, you want to keep it as close as you can. The higher level budgets are only about 200,000. They're always non-union, and they are very much so. It's about efficiency. Like an independent movie. You're saying, I think I did Redemption. We did average maybe 11, 12 pages a day. They're doing up to 15.
Hmm.
That is easier because you are punching in and you are punched in a lot more often, and you're scripted so much in terms of knowing what your set pieces are, because you still have to have the set pieces as well. You gotta get the effect in there, or the twirl or whatever that visual is
Right.
that's gonna meet genre expectation. You've got to have 5 of those in every episode,
Are there any
visually.
are there any titles that you recommend? Are they known by titles?
I mean, I've watched some werewolf ones. I tend to go in and watch the number one, so that's why I know the billionaire daughter type of one, which
Yeah,
is the
where are
number one.
those listed, or and how are we fed them? Is it a form of advertising, and then the algorithm keeps us in it because we keep watching?
Well, they're a little bit more. I mean, especially on, and I want to say it's microdrama. I think it's or real shorts, and people watching can correct me, but I'm pretty sure that most of them, what they do is they put the number of views, and often you're just like looking at stuff, and you look at, oh, that's got a lot of views, that must be good. Click,
Got it.
and it's got a great, some kind of picture that's got the billionaire and the werewolf, and the whatever it is,
Right.
that's going to grab you.
So if you're seeing a clip, then the clip is um, inspiring you to move to the platform. But
Hmm.
if you're on the platform, then you're finding the list of
Hmm.
what's popular or what you're being fed.
Right. And then, so you're just consuming, what everybody else is consuming, and you're more than likely are going to probably take the stuff that's at the top because that's just how it works.
Right. Are you like me where you're still frustrated by two things? How difficult it is to navigate a screen when you're
Hmm.
watching, on your 80 inch or whatever. Just to get to figure out what's where, and then secondly, how many platforms, especially Prime, you can access other networks, but then there's a whole process of paying or figuring out what's free and what's not free.
That
And
is it. It's an interesting topic because as somebody who has been running one for 5 years, it's like one thing I can tell you is that every single streaming network has some major flaw that maybe you haven't found yet, or you probably do know about. Um, it may be the weakness in their description. It may be how Amazon recommends stuff to you that you can't get to, but the idea is that they're a marketplace, and that's actually a good thing because in an ecosystem way, you think about it, it's like I hate having 10 different things I've got to go to.
right,
Like
exactly.
it's great with Amazon where you can get Apple through Amazon and you can get those
Right.
things because now you know where everything is, right? It's like all I have to do is remember to go to Amazon. I don't have to go to Netflix.
Or even, just to search for, how do I watch, the NBA, finals?
Hmm.
What's it on today?
Well, the
With,
good thing is that depending on what TV you have enabled now, the search features have gotten better. Where a lot of times I discover that I'm just using because I have a Fire TV, like a Mitsubishi or something, and I just hit that thing even on the main screen. And if I want to see, we did a Charlie Sheen study, so we watched Two and a Half Men all the way through to him being gone. We just watched Platoon the other night because my wife hadn't seen it, and so we watched those, and then I was like, okay, well, what else is there? And we just did Charlie Sheen as a search, and
okay.
then that brings up everything that Charlie Sheen has done, and now I can see, oh, this is cost me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to pay 199, but we can watch that because I do. So there's search functions buried in there that are meant to help you, but they're still guiding you towards what they want to guide you towards.
Right.
And that is why I'm an advocate for physical media too, because you don't
Yeah.
really own this stuff, you
Listen,
know.
if you're a purist, you don't want the credits disrupted, especially if you want to see if you know anybody who's working on.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't want to have to tell them I want to see the credits on Platoon. I mean, Platoon is one of those movies that remember they had those 80s style stills where they did everybody did a pose and they did their name and it's
right,
da-da-da. You want to watch that. You don't want to go, do you want to see blah blah blah. I'm like, of course I want
right,
to see this
exactly,
credits. This is an Oscar
exactly.
winner.
So,
Um,
any other trends you're looking at? Um, that we covered a lot of ground in a short
mhm.
period of time. We'll wrap up in a sec. First of all, anybody who is watching or who does stream this later, please subscribe. Also, look for me personally at LinkedIn, which I hesitated for years because we had 60,000 people in our database, and rather
Mhm.
than I just felt like a compromise when Facebook took off 15 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is writers _boot_camp. Look up Sean Reid, Reid, at LinkedIn as well. World One Productions and his streaming company. And if you have any questions and follow-up, feel free to email me at jg@writersbootcamp.com. So any other trends, insight, advice to writers or filmmakers right now?
I am, like we talked about, physical media. I'm a big advocate. I'm looking at the 25th anniversary for Redemption coming up here in a couple more years, and I want to do a re-release on DVD. And I really feel like physical media, whether it's Laserdisc if you're on that one, or it's DVDs or Blu-rays, I feel like how we went with albums, I feel like that's the next big movement for us. I think that kids are going into stores and buying Blu-rays now. 4K Blu-rays
Right.
are going back up again. 15% of us actually watch VHS still. So,
Wow.
so
You know, it'd be
there,
cool
I
to
think
have those combo TV, VHS, DVD sets.
yeah, they still make them. And there are
Yeah.
people who still going to Black Serial Killers, Truth or Fiction, which was one of my documentaries that I made. That, it's still selling 3 years later. We're about to
What's
put that on Blu-ray because people go in and buy stuff in Walmart. Well,
Can you
you
give
got
us that
that?
title again?
Black Serial Killers, Truth or Fiction.
Wow. And it's not satirical.
No,
Okay.
not at all. It's a cold truth, unfortunately, or not.
Right. Well, Sean, by the way, I love your glasses,
Well, thank you.
the color. And, you know, just thank you for being here. Thanks for always giving back to the community. We really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you and follow up with you soon.
Yes,
Sean Reid, everybody. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, we'll speak soon. I'll stay on and just make sure that this records. I want to thank Brad Miller, our Director of Development, because he's helping with some of the tech. He says it's important for me to stay on just to make sure that everything is uploaded on this new system, Riverside. If anybody wants to get involved in the basic trainings coming up, I do have one half price, half work study opportunity. We don't need writers or our alumni to work for us. However, it's a way to help writers save money. Otherwise, we'll always be glad to customize a monthly payment plan, make it easy for you. You know, our alumni are so successful over the years, 37 years now, because they invested in their careers early on and their professional education. So thanks everybody. Have a great day. See you at 1 p.m. for Gary Goldstein, another alum.